Well, welcome to another episode of the Cybersecurity Whisperer for the week of April 28th. Busy week for me, doing a little traveling with my family, so apologies for the background noise. Another busy week for cyber, so we'll jump right in and get you the information that you need. Cisco on Wednesday announced, along with the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, a couple of big major issues that they've got, both with their ASA, their Adaptive Security Appliance, as well as their Firepower Threat Defense, or FTD devices. And these are actively being exploited in a documented campaign. In fact, CISA, they strongly encourage their users and administrators to apply the necessary patches and updates to hunt for malicious activity and report these findings to CISA. They're doing something that they really have only done a few times, and it's really critical. They have given federal agencies only until May 1st to patch these vulns, which kind of makes sense. And so again, this vulnerability is due to incomplete error checking when parsing an HTTP header. And so an attacker could exploit this vulnerability by sending a crafted HTTP request to a targeted web server on a device. And this successful exploit could allow the attacker to cause a DOS condition when the device reloads. So if you've got Cisco ASA or FTD devices, be sure you're reaching out and checking to see if those need to be patched. Moving on, these FTP servers, MoveIt, and others have continued to be targeted, and it makes sense. They've got access to a ton of data. And so this week, CrushFTP, there's a ton of them. Haven't heard of Crush. They had a critical vuln on Wednesday announced as well. And it was kind of interesting because it's a fully unauthenticated and trivially exploitable exploit, and the exploit code is available. And if you look at the cybersecurity firm Census, they found over almost 3,000 of these just in the U.S. alone. And again, if successfully exploited, the vulnerability would allow an unauthenticated attacker to access any sensitive data a customer managed with the FTP client and achieve a full system compromise. So if you run CrushFTP, you need to go patch it. So, I read some articles this week about cybersecurity burnout and with CISOs. And so there was an interesting article about what is success in cybersecurity. And really, I've said this a lot, it means we're failing less. And so, defenders shouldn't be measured by pure wins and losses because intrusions are going to happen. And our job is really to keep a bad situation from getting worse. So anytime a defender, which is who we are, can reduce risk and stop the bleeding before an incident becomes, a massive wound, is certainly a good day for us in cyber. And this really talks back to how businesses allocate their resources and prioritize security throughout an organization. This is what really plays a significant role in achieving incremental, success as it relates to the bottom line. And so successful security leaders, we can really link our efforts and our investments to business outcomes. I mean, this is according to a principal analyst at Forrester. We really need to demonstrate how our security investments contribute to revenue in a way that resonates with our fellow executives. This isn't simple, of course. There's no simple answers to define or measure success in cybersecurity, and it largely depends on each particular domain. And this was chatting this week with Phil Venimals from Google, who's their cloud VP and CISO. The way he looks at it and the way I look at it is it's to look at the absence of surprise. What upsets most security leaders is when something bad happens and it just totally comes out of left field. And it feels like we should have known about it. And so typically as a security leader, and as any executive, you're going to get upset by surprises. Speaking of what shouldn't be a surprise, Microsoft responded this week to the report last week by the Cyber Safety Review Board, and saying that they are continuing to rank security as their number one priority. And this was directly from Satya Nadella, the Microsoft CEO, and he says again they're making security priority number one. They said it during their earnings call, of course. We've launched our Secure Future initiative last fall, bringing together every part of the company to advance cybersecurity protection. We're doubling down. They are obviously a huge target, but some of the things we've seen come out, some of the attacks this year, they certainly have a lot more focus to work on. And so we hope they will, because they are a critical infrastructure. So many companies and enterprises and governments use them. Some encouraging news, Google Cloud's Mandiant division, Google purchased Mandiant, they are saying that enterprises are getting better at detecting security incidents, and that we saw significant improvements in how organizations track down threats And but ultimately the attackers are still abusing common threat vectors. And so we had improved medium dwell times, which is great. They fallen to their lowest levels in more than a decade. And orgs on average were able to detect intrusions with a median of 10 days in 23 as compared to 16 and 22. And so that's fantastic. And then, but 0-day vulns continue to be hot for espionage actors as well as financially motivated threat groups, and those rose 50% in 23 compared to the prior year. Let's talk about also, the final thing is the CISA came out this week with, again, just a reminder blog, really, that cyber hygiene is really what helps mitigate ransomware-related vulns. Really, they're talking about, do you have, your internet-connected devices? Do you have RDP, the remote desktop running on those? Is it unprotected? But that they offer, again, only if you're in critical infrastructure, but CISA offers a service where they will do kind of continuous hygiene vulnerability scanning for any internet-connected devices, and the orgs that took advantage of this, no-cost service, again, if you're in critical infrastructure, they saw a risk reduction of 40% within the first 12 months, and usually see improvements within the first 90 days, which, again, to me means that these companies aren't taking advantage of maybe some just even free vuln services for your external vulnerabilities. So they said in 23, they completed almost 1,750 of these vulnerability scans, and again, of internet accessible devices. And following notifications, these companies would be able to see about a 50% reduction in either just patching these devices, implementing a compensating control, or just taking them offline. So again, a lot of it's about basic hygiene and doing the basics. Don't expose RDP, or if you have to, make sure it's protected. Ongoing vulnerability scans, patching, phishing-resistant MFA. And we talked a lot about privilege management, making sure you're separating your everyday accounts from the accounts of those individuals that have admin access. Finally, it's interesting that CISA warned of a 2-year-old print spooler flaw in Microsoft after they're seeing active Russian exploitation. So again, if you've got, this is it's 2022 38028, and it was a 7.8 on the CVS score. If you use Microsoft's print servers or print spoolers, this is a privilege escalation vulnerability, and they can modify a JavaScript file and execute it with system-level permissions. And so you need to make sure you're patching your Windows servers and your Windows print servers. Again, I hope you have a great week, and if this gave you the information you need, please like and subscribe, and send me any questions you've got. Have a great week.